Hi, in the previous video we created an Angular project and we also installed Angular Material. In this video we will set up our routing and we also create a responsive navigation bar. And when we say responsive, we mean that it's gonna look good both on desktop and mobile devices. Let's see what our application looks like so far. So if you're in this folder, if we try to compile our application, it's not gonna work. We need to go inside this folder. So I'm gonna type cd, press enter. Now to compile it and open in the browser, I need to type ngserve-o. This is what it looks like right now. We put all these buttons on the screen just to demonstrate that Angular Material is working. Let me put this application side by side and let me remove all these buttons. Let me save it, Control S. And now we have an empty screen. Let's stop our application and create a few components. Control C to stop it. And we will need 3 components. Let me open our File Explorer. And let me expand it for now. Control C to make it look better, and I'll type clear to clear screen. The first component we're going to create is going to be called home. And I'm going to type ng generate component and the name of the component. Gonna press enter. As you can see, now we have a folder with 4 files inside of it. Let me create another component. I'm gonna just press arrow up, and instead of home I'm gonna type contacts. We have another component, contacts, and one more time new contact. Now that we have 3 components, let's configure our routing. As you remember, when we create our new application, we had a question, would you like to configure routing? And when we answered yes, Angular CLI created for us this file. Inside this routes array, we're going to create a few objects. The first path is going to be just empty string. And our component will be home component. VS Code is helping me, so as you can see, it imported this statement. And if it didn't happen for you, you need to manually type it. I'm gonna put comma, enter, and do the same thing. And our next path is gonna be contacts. For component, it's gonna be contacts component. And I'm gonna just copy paste this one. I'm gonna press Control C, Control V. Let me remove this comma. And this will be new contact. And for the component, it's going to be new contact component. So let me save it, Control S. And I'm gonna go back to our app component HTML and place a few links here. At this point, let's put VS Code and browser side by side. I'm gonna compile our application and ngserve. Now let's place our first link. I'm gonna type A, press tab, and here I'm gonna type home. Control S to save. It's a clickable link, but nothing happens when we click it. And instead of href, like we do in traditional web applications, in Angular we're using router link. And here we're gonna just place a /. Control S to save, still compiles. And now down below we're gonna use a special Angular directive, router outlet. And this is a placeholder for our components. So when we click on this link, Angular is gonna grab our component and place it inside these 2 tags. And which component to place there, it's going to be detected inside this routes array. Let me go back, Control S to save. Now as you can see, we have our component here, and it's because we have just our URL, nothing else. Let's create 2 more links here. Control C, Control V. And here I'm gonna replace it with contacts. And this one will be our new contact. Control S to save. And as you can see, we have 3 links now. At this point, it doesn't look very nice. And that's why our next step will be to create a nice looking navigation bar. Let's go to the Angular Material website. And here we're gonna click on components. And let's scroll all the way to the bottom. And the first component we're gonna be using is gonna be our toolbar. Let's click on it. First thing first, we need to import our module. Let me copy it, Control C, and I'm gonna go back. And I need to go to our app modules TS. And I'm gonna place it here. And now I'm gonna copy this part, Mat Tools bar module, and I'm gonna put it inside the imports array. So I'm gonna place a comma here, Control V, Control S to save. Let's go back to the Angular Material website and let's go back to overview. And to start with, we're gonna use this second one bar that already has a color and it has already a little menu icon. Let me click on this view code. I'm gonna scroll it up a little bit. And it's going to be this second Mat Toolbar. Let me copy all this from Mat Toolbar opening tag to Mat Toolbar closing tag. And I'm gonna back to our application. And inside our app component HTML, let's make some space, and right on top, I'm gonna place all this stuff here. Control V. Now, as you can see, Mat icon is being highlighted. And it's because for icons, we need to import another statement. Let me go back. And on the left side, as you can see, I have this icon component. I need to go to this API, grab that import statement, Control C, app module TS, place it here, grab this part, place it inside the imports array. Control S to save. And when I go back, as you can see, this is not underlined anymore. Control S, and let's see what it looks like. This is our toolbar. And let's modify it. I'm gonna close the Explorer. First of all, let's change the name of our application. It's gonna be address book. Control S to save. Let's remove this span example spacer. And for now, let's remove these 2 buttons. Control S to save. This is what we have at the moment. And let's move our contacts right here to the right side of our address book. So I'm gonna make some space here. And I'm gonna cut all this, Control X. And I'm gonna place it here, Control V. Let's save it. As you can see, it doesn't look that great, and I need to move this span above it. Control X, Control V, Control S. And let's style these links as material buttons. So all we need to do is type here Mat button. And let's copy this to the rest of the links. Control S. It looks a little better, and let's see if our routing still works, and it does. In the next step, let's change the size of this address book title, and I'm gonna give it an ID menu title. Control S, I'm gonna grab it. And now let me close this app module TS and app routing module TS, and we need to open our SCSS file. Here we don't have anything. So since it's an ID, I need to put this hashtag, menu title, curly braces, and for text size, and it's going to be font size, let's choose medium. Control S. I think it looks a little better. Let's also give it a margin on the right side to separate from the rest of the menu items. So I'm gonna say margin right, and let's give it 20 pixels. Control S, and I think it looks much better. Let's also adjust the color of this toolbar. I'm back in documentation, and as you can see, I was using this matte toolbar, and there's no color here. And I actually meant to use this part. And here, as you can see, the color is primary. Let me copy it. Let's go back, and here, next to our toolbar, I'm gonna place this color primary, Control S. And as you can see, now we have a nice color here. In the next step, let's remove this menu icon on bigger screens and leave it on smaller screens. We're gonna go to our app component SCSS file, and we're gonna create here a media query. The syntax for that is add media, and here I'm gonna type mean width column 900 pixels, curly braces, and let's give our menu icon an ID. We're gonna remove this class and give it an ID menu icon. I'm gonna copy it, Control C. Let me save it first, Control S. Let's go back, and here I'm gonna say menu icon and display none. Control S. Alright, let's expand it and see what happens. As you can see, the icon is gone, and if I make it small again, it appears. Let's do the same thing with the menu. To do that, we're going to create a similar media query. So let me just copy it and paste it here. So instead of min, I'm going to type max. And let's go back to our HTML, and I need to give all these links a class. Let's call it top menu item, and I'm gonna copy it to other links too. Let me save it. And I'm gonna go back to our CSS file, and here instead of hashtag I need to put that because it's our class. And let me see, so as you can see, our menu disappeared. So if I'm gonna extend it, it's gonna be here. If I'm gonna shrink it, it disappeared. The next step, let's start working on our side menu. I'm back to our Angular Material website, and let's scroll all the way down. And I'm gonna click on this Sidenav component. Let's go to our API tab. Grab this import statement, Control C, go back, app module TS, and of course I need to put it in this array, Control S to save. Let's go back to Angular Material. Let's go to our Overview tab. And let's look at our basic side nav. Let's look at the code, so view code. There's not much here. Let's see what's in our TS file. Same thing. And CSS, there's not much here too. So let's copy this, Control C. And here inside our app component HTML, I'm gonna place it below our toolbar. Let me remove this. Also remove that class too. And let's place our router outlet. Let me highlight, Control X, and instead of main content, I'm gonna place our router outlet. Let's actually break it down so it's easy to see. Let me save it, Control S. And as you can see, it compiled successfully, but here we won't see much yet. Let me put it side by side. And let me change this new context works to something bigger. So I'm gonna go to all components one by one, go to component HTML files, and here I'm gonna replace all this with just h1 tag. Control S. I'm gonna close it, go to the next one. Control S, and I'm going to do the same thing with a new contact. Control S. All right, let's make sure our routing still works. And let's start working on our side navigation. So first thing, let's make sure it's the same color as our top bar. I'm gonna copy this Material Sidenav, come here. And it's a class, so I'm gonna put that. Material Sidenav, curly braces, and let's put a background color as blue for now. Let me save it. And I actually want to match it to the color of our top bar. So let's try primary, see if it works. Okay, this actually doesn't work. And I think we might need to do it right here. Okay, as you can see, it doesn't work here. So instead of using this primary color, we need to use the RGB value. So let's find it really quick. I Google Angular Material Colors. And I'm gonna go to the second link, Angular Material Demos Colors. And I'm gonna scroll down. I think this is our color, primary indigo. So I'm gonna just copy this hexadecimal number, Control C, and I'm gonna go back. And here instead of primary, I'm gonna paste that number. I'm gonna save it. And let's look at our application. As you can see, our color changed to this primary color. Now, I also want this navbar to fill the whole screen, and there's a special property we're gonna use. Let me go back to Angular Material Documentations, and this time I'm gonna go to the API tab, and I'm gonna scroll down to this Material Sidenav extends MatDraw section. I'm gonna grab this fixedInViewport. Control C, go back to our application. Let me save it first, and I'm gonna go back here. Material Sidenav bar, and I'm gonna put square brackets. Control V, equal sign. I'm gonna say true. Control S to save. You can see now it fills the whole length of the page. To bring this down a little bit, I'm gonna use another property, fixedTopGap. I'm gonna copy it too and do the same thing. Square brackets. And let's start with 50 pixels. Control S to save. Control S. And to make sure it's consistent, let's change the height of this top bar to 50 pixels too. I'm gonna grab this Mat toolbar. I'm gonna go back to SCSS file. Type Mat toolbar and set height to 50 pixels. Let's save it. And I think it would look a little better if you make it a little thicker. So let's change it to actually 60. And we're going to change this number to 60 as well. Our next step will be to configure this button. So when we click on it, it's going to either open the bar or close it. Let's look again at our documentation, and I'm gonna go all the way up. I'm gonna go to the overview, scroll down, and I have this section about opening and closing a side nav. So as you can see, I can use three methods, open, close, and toggle methods, to open or to close the nav bar. Let's look at the code. As you can see, first thing I need to do is give this local reference to our side navigation bar. Let's do that. Right here, I'm gonna paste it. So it's hashtag side nav bar. And now I can use this reference in my open close method. So this is my button, and I'm going to create a click event. And here I'm gonna type side nav dot toggle parentheses. Let me save it, Control S, and let's test our application. Now I'm gonna remove this open property because we don't want the application to have it open on start. So Control S to save. And now when we click here, our sidebar is going to be either open and closed. Let's replace this Sidenav content with our links. So we're just going to copy all these links. Control C. And place it right here. So let me delete it. Oops. And I need to change our class from top menu items to side menu. Because as you remember, these items are not visible on small screens. Okay, let's see. So they line up horizontally. Let's fix that. There are a few different ways to do it. We can just put it in a flex box and display vertically. I'm gonna put in a div. So I'm gonna copy that, Control X, Control V, and let's give it a class. Control S to save. I'm gonna grab it and I'm gonna go here. I'm gonna create an entry dot, curly braces, and let's say display. We need to say flexbox and direction. Flexbox direction will be column. Control S. Let's see how it looks. It didn't pick up. Let me refresh and see. Still didn't pick up. And I think we need to put these separate anchor tags inside separate divs. Let me see. Alright, and it fixed the issue. Let me make it a little bit prettier. Control X here. Control S. And also let's change the color of those links to white. So the class is Sidenav item. And maybe spread them out a little bit. So color is going to be white. And margin top is going to be 20 pixels. Let's see how it looks. The margin worked, but the color didn't work. Let me look. So let me make it a little bigger and let me right click on it and click inspect. I don't need the console. And as you can see down here, color white, and it's actually overridden, so it's crossed out. If you see something like that, the way to fix it, you can come here, make some space, exclamation mark, and you can type important. Let me save it, Control S. And now as you can see, the issue was fixed. There's one more thing I want to do. I want to add icons in front of those words home, contacts, new contact. To find different icons, you can just Google Angular Material icons, and the link 1, 2, 3, 4 on the list will be the one I usually use. So here you can go to Material Icons. Let's click on this home, and I usually go to this End Drawing tab. It's easier to see the name of that icon, so it's going to be home. You can just click here. Let's go back. Let me make it bigger. And in front of our home, we're going to place a mat icon tag. And inside those tags, we're going to place home. Let me save it, Control S. Let's look at our application. As you can see, I have a little icon in front of our home. Let's do the same thing for other links. So I'm just gonna copy paste it, and we're gonna replace home with something else. So I'm gonna put it right here and right here. Let me save it. So we have 3 homes. Let's find something else. So for contacts, let's use this people icon. So I'm gonna copy it. And for new contact, let's use this person add icon. Control S. Let's see how it looks. And let's add those icons to the top menu links too. So let me go back, grab those. Control S. Let's see how it looks. Now let's check if it works for us. So as you can see, we can switch between components, but every time we click on it, I actually want this menu bar to collapse. And to do that, we're gonna add a click event to our links. So here we can just use a click event. And we're going to use again our local reference. And instead of toggle, we're gonna say close. Don't forget parentheses. And I'm gonna grab this and place inside the other links too. Control S. Let's check our application. Now when we click on our links, the menu is gonna collapse. Now I want to do a couple more things. I think this nav bar is a little narrow for this. So let's make it a little wider. And for this class, Material Sidenav, let's add one more property. And let's set it to 180 pixels. Let's see how it looks. I think it's a little too wide. And I think it looks much better. One more thing I want to do, if I start expanding it, and as you can see, our top menu shows up, but our sidebar is still here, and I don't want it to be here. The way to handle it is to use our media queries again. And what I can do, I can copy this class. And I'm gonna scroll down. And inside this first media query, I'm gonna use this class. And I'm gonna say the same thing. Display none. Let me save it. And let's see if it works. Let me open it and expand it. And as soon as it reaches a certain point, it's gonna disappear. I think at this point it's pretty much done. The only thing we could potentially change is how this navigation bar pushes this main content to the right. So there are three options that Angular Material gives you. Let's look at them. If you go to our Sidenav documentations, go to Overview and scroll down to this changing the Sidenav behavior, you can see that we have three modes: over, push, and side. You can read what it does, but I think it's better just to see it. So let's go to our application and change that setting. If I go back to our app component HTML, you can see that mode here is displayed as side. Let's change it to mode over. Let me save it, Control S, and let's see how it works. So as you can see, this menu is going on top of our main content. Let's change it to push. Control S to save and see how that works. So it pushes the content to the right, and it also places a shadow on top of our content. Let me change it back to side. Control S. And I think this is the option I like the most. I think the only thing at this point I would do is just to move this main contact maybe to the right and down. And the way we can do it, we can place our router outlet inside the div, and let's give it the class main content. I'm gonna just place it inside the div. Control S to save, and I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna give it margin of 20 pixels. I think it looks much better. And let's make sure our top menu works too. And I think overall it looks very nice. I'm gonna save these changes to a separate branch in GitHub, and I'll place the link for that in the description for this video. I hope this video was helpful, and we'll continue building our application in the next video. Thank you for watching.